Ryan Reynolds is brain behind all of these subpoenas. Maybe him and Nick Shapiro has been sitting together, like, how can we punish these people?
Lawyer just exposed Ryan Reynolds for leaking confidential court materials using a secret burner email before discovery even started, breaking serious federal laws. The scandal spiraled fast.
Ryan Reynolds is now trying to bully the court to try to financial pressure on Justin Baldoni. You were the ones who started the lawsuit.
He's now banned from Blake Lively's deposition due to aggressive, manipulative behavior, and Disney's ready to drop him. His empire is collapsing. Behind the scenes, Ryan's more like a Hollywood Bond villain with a Wi-Fi connection and a burner email account. Let's rip this shiny image apart because this story, it's not about superheroes, it's about sabotage. It all started with a burner email. Yes, a burner email. Not a slick agency brief, not a sealed court file, just a sketchy little Gmail knockoff. And what was Ryan using it for? Just sending confidential deposition transcripts and internal film footage to a third-party PR firm. You know, the stuff that's supposed to stay under lock and key during a federal court battle? And here's the best part. It was all leaked before discovery even began. Let that sink in. The dude didn't even wait for the court to request evidence. He just started playing legal Hunger Games behind the judge's back. Now, who exposed this? Not a journalist, not a hacker, not even Justin Baldwin's team. No, it was Mike Guttatell, the very lawyer Ryan Reynolds hired himself. This man was brought in to help clean up the mess. And instead he took one look around and went, nah, I'm not going to jail for this clown. Ryan and Blake thought they could puppet string the courtroom, but Gottlieb cut the strings and lit them on fire. He realized fast he was being used as a PR meat shield to bury Baldwin's case and said, absolutely not. The burner email wasn't just for PR strategy. No, it included specific instructions, and I quote, bury anything linking Taylor, Hugh, or the crew, and of course, scrub metadata. That's not a celebrity trying to protect his family. That's a dude prepping for a cover-up like it's a Mission Impossible sequel. Tampering with court documents, smuggling out video files, and sending them to a firm built to spin trash into sugar. That's not just shady, that's criminal. And here's where it gets even juicier. Because this isn't just a slap on the wrist moment. Ryan Reynolds didn't just break courtroom etiquette. He broke federal law. Specifically, Rule 11 of Federal Civil Procedure, abuse of process. And the protective order filed in March 2020. Yeah, that protective order that says don't tamper with or leak private material during legal proceedings. You'd think Ryan, with his billion-dollar brand and Marvel contract, would understand that. But no, apparently reading contracts isn't as fun as tweeting about aviation gin. Now, insiders say this whole mess has triggered a federal obstruction case. Ryan might be facing up to 5 years in prison for this alone. Okay, and honestly, that would be the most useful role he's played since Deadpool 2. Except this time, the suit's orange and the fourth wall is made of concrete. But we're not done yet, not even close. Because when you leak confidential legal documents before discovery, you're not just bending the rules, you're bulldozing them. What Ryan did qualifies as tampering with evidence and attempting to influence. Testimony, which carries a sentence of up to 20 years depending on how ugly the court wants to get. This isn't gossip. This isn't clickbait. This is felony-level obstruction of a federal process. The courtroom is not Twitter. If you don't get to, run a smear campaign and walk away with likes. But Ryan didn't stop there. No, he went full PR obsessed while his lawyers were filing motions for sanctions, trying to make it look like Baldwin's case was wasting everyone's time. He was simultaneously feeding confidential info to a third-party PR firm to control headlines. That's not defense. That's a coordinated assault on the legal system dressed up in a perfectly tailored tux. Sources close to the court say Disney's not smiling either. In fact, they've already launched their own internal investigation under the morals clause baked into Ryan's contract. You know, the clause that basically says, if you embarrass us, will cut you loose faster than a low-performing Pixar sequel. And yes, it's real. Disney doesn't care how many gin bottles you sell or how many sarcastic takes birthday posts you write for Blake. When their brand is on the line, you're either part of the show or you're gone. And if that clause is activated, here's what Ryan could lose: a felony charge, public court humiliation, a $250,000 fine, the loss of his Marvel contract, and let's not forget his entire brand empire. Aviation Gin, Maximum Effort Productions, Mint Mobile Clout, poof. Deadpool 3 might just be his farewell performance, except the audience will be a jury, and the only costume change will be prison jumpsuits. But wait, Reynolds wasn't done embarrassing himself. Enter the sanctioned circus. That's right. Ryan and Blake, not content with trying to leak documents behind the scenes, went full scorched earth mode in public court. They filed a motion for monetary sanctions designed to choke Justin Baldwin financially. Not because Baldwin's case lacked merit, not because the court found it weak, but because the lawsuit was inconvenient for Ryan's image. And let's be real, his Deadpool 3 promo schedule. They tried to get the judge to skip discovery entirely. You heard me. Ryan's legal team wanted to block all evidence before it was even collected. Like, hey judge, can we not do the legal process? It's kind of bad for my brand. Thanks. Are you kidding me? Mike gotta tell, again being the only adult in the room, flat out refused to support the move. He called it legal suicide and told Ryan point blank, if you want someone who will commit legal suicide for PR, find another fool. And that right there, that's a lawyer tired of playing babysitter for a rich dude who thinks courtrooms work like Instagram stories. You post your version, filter the facts, and everyone just claps. This sanctioned stunt violated basic legal procedures. You don't file for sanctions before depositions. You don't try to financially destroy your opponent before they even get to defend themselves. And you certainly don't do it just because your publicist is sweating. But that's exactly what Ryan did, and the court took notice. Filing sanctions under false pretenses is not just bad strategy. It's potential grounds for abuse of process and even court sanctions against Ryan's own attorneys. And look, let's be honest, this wasn't legal defense. This was a tantrum, a he said it dressed in courtroom language. Ryan's real message to the court was clear: I'm rich, I'm famous. This lawsuit's annoying. Make it disappear. That's not a defense. That's privilege on full display. But the mask is slipping. The man who sold us the sarcastic superhero is now standing in a federal courtroom trying to pretend like leaking files. Tampering with evidence and choking his opponent with fake sanctions is just another quirky PR stunt. It's not. And if justice actually works the way it's supposed to, this time Ryan Reynolds won't be walking off into a sunset with a witty one-liner. He'll be dragged into a courtroom with a mugshot, a lawyer who stopped pretending to like him, and a legal system that's about to teach him something Disney never did. This is where it gets delicious. You thought Ryan Reynolds was having a bad week. Let's zoom in on Disney's boardroom, because the corporate wrath of Bob Iger is about as warm and fuzzy as a cement pillow. Insiders say Bob isn't just annoyed, he's livid. And when the man in charge of a multi-billion-dollar global empire starts twitching over one of his top-shelf talents, dragging mouse ears through legal mud, that's not a warning. That's the studio equivalent of handing Ryan a shovel and pointing at his own grave. See, Deadpool 3 was supposed to be the golden goose. The perfect blend of edgy and family-friendly cash grab, complete with snark, explosions, and A-list appearances. But instead of hyping trailers, the press is flooded with court filings, subpoena scandals, and Blake Lively pitching shampoo while the internet accuses her of launching a subpoena war on YouTubers. Yeah, not exactly on brand for Disney's core values of magic, inclusivity, and definitely not a PR disaster. Here's the kicker. Ryan's contract wasn't even originally Disney's. It came through the Fox merger. which means he slipped through the cracks with all his baggage intact. But Disney, they saw this mess coming. That's why they've got a little escape hatch called the Morals Clause. In short, if you become a walking scandal and your image starts dragging Mickey Mouse through the sewer, they can cut you loose clean. No hugs, no farewell party. Marketing teams are freaking out. There's already concern that the Deadpool 3 campaign, something that should have been printing money, is now tainted. Every search about the movie brings up subpoenas, lawsuits, creators being harassed, and Ryan's face floating somewhere between a shampoo bottle and a legal brief. Blake launching a tone-deaf hair care brand in the middle of all this. It's the PR equivalent of farting during a eulogy. No one's laughing, everyone's cringing. But here's where it gets extra cold. Disney can't just yank Ryan's contract overnight without triggering a messy breach situation. No, that'd make headlines they don't want. So instead, insiders say they're planning what's being called a quiet cancellation. What does that mean? It's brutal. You technically still have a seat at the table, but no one's inviting you to dinner. No new contracts, no renewals. Fade out of existence until the only roles left are voiceovers for expired streaming deals. Welcome to Hollywood Siberia, Ryan. One insider even said it flat out. He still has a seat at the table, but no one's inviting him to dinner. And honestly, that's the most savage thing said in this whole saga. Forget the lawsuits, forget the court drama. Being ghosted by Disney is how careers end in silence. Now, let's talk about Blake and her subpoena rampage. Because what's a meltdown without dragging in the internet's favorite punching bag? Blake Lively's legal team didn't just issue a few subpoenas. They carpet-bombed the creator economy with 16 subpoenas, targeting big names like Paris Hilton, Andy Sr., and Candace Owens. But they didn't stop at famous YouTubers. No, they went after a literal astrology channel with just 300 subscribers. Why? Because nothing screams legal strategy like bullying a woman who reads horoscopes over court papers. It was never about justice. This was a textbook scare tactic. A move designed to shut down critics and send a message. Speak about us and we'll drag you into federal hell. Small creators were suddenly getting demands for their credit card data, banking info, private accounts just for talking about the lawsuit. It's not leaking anything, not breaking laws, just talking. One creator, Sash Flo, said it best. This is a threat to the entire creator economy. And she's right. If Blake and Ryan can subpoena anyone who dares question them, what's next? Instagram comments, TikTok memes you cough the wrong way about? Deadpool? And suddenly you're in legal quicksand. And here's the hilarious part. Blake's own lawyer, Ezra Hudson, once gave a polished professional lecture about, you guessed it, freedom of speech in the workplace. Beautifully ironic, right? Except when the subpoena scandal exploded. That same lecture mysteriously disappeared from her law firm's website. You click the link now and it's like it never happened. It's page not found. Just like their credibility. But guess what? The court didn't miss this. And now those subpoenas are under review for potential legal overreach with direct reference to Rule 45 of Civil Procedure, which basically means Blake's tactic may have just boomeranged hard. And just when you think this couldn't get messier, a federal judge swoops in and says, enough, finished, over, no more fishing expeditions, no more bullying YouTubers for having opinions. The judge set a hard deadline. Document production ends July 25th. All motions to compel must be filed by August 1st. And by September 30th, every last deposition must be done. Blake's team tried to push back. Of course, they pulled out the melodrama, missing audio footage, security fears. A 400-page motion trying to portray Brian Friedman as dangerous because of an entirely separate Vin Diesel harassment case. I mean, seriously, it was like watching a soap opera script crash into a courtroom filing. And the judge, he flat out ignored all of it. That 400-page filing, useless. The court called it irrelevant and tossed it aside like the overcooked legal spaghetti. It was all Blake's excuses, location concerns, personal safety, no audio in film prep material. They were dismissed. Cold clean, just like Disney's upcoming Reynolds strategy. Bob Iger is ready to cut the cord. Disney's PR team is pulling fire alarms over Deadpool 3. Blake wildly turned subpoenas into digital grenades and launched them at creators for sport. Her lawyer erased her free speech lecture faster than Ryan erases blame. And the court, they've had it. No more extensions, no more excuses, no more games. The subpoena's dead. The deadline's final. The narrative control completely out of Blake. And Ryan's hands now. Ryan Reynolds thought he could still slink into the deposition room and play protective husband, PR overlord. Not anymore. On July 17th, he was officially banned from attending Blake Lively's deposition. Yes, banned like an out-of-control uncle at a wedding. And the reason, a protective order issued back in March 2024. That's not just a slap on the wrist. That's the court saying, we don't trust you within 50 feet of this testimony. And frankly, they're right. He's no longer a legal party in the case, which means under the court's rules and under attorneys' eyes, only confidentiality. Ryan isn't even allowed to peek at the evidence. This isn't about celebrity entitlement anymore. It's about process, control, and making sure no one taints the testimony with Hollywood-grade manipulation. And guess what? The court clearly believes Ryan's presence could do exactly that. But here's what everyone's whispering. This isn't really about legal status. No, the real reason Ryan got booted was because of his unhinged, hot-headed behavior. That's been festering behind the scenes for years. Want proof? Let's go back to the set of The Change-Up. A whistleblower. A former extra came forward and described Ryan berating a kneeling crew member, screaming, ranting, accusing the guy of filming him illegally as if he were being stalked by CIA agents on a movie set. Apparently, Ryan had a full-blown paranoid meltdown. The extra said the guy looked terrified with his hands in the air like he was about to get tackled. That's not quirky. That's not sarcastic. That's unstable. And now the court is afraid he'll bring that same energy to Blake's deposition. There's a concern that if he's allowed in the room, he'll intimidate her, coach her responses during breaks, or influence the testimony entirely. These aren't wild accusations. They're grounded fears in how federal depositions work. You don't get to whisper advice in the hallway. You don't get to glare across the table. This isn't a Deadpool promo. This is sworn legal testimony. Which brings us to the slow-motion explosion that is Ryan and Blake's marriage. Insiders are whispering louder than ever that the relationship is cooked. The only time they interact now is for scheduled PR appearances, photos, red carpets, carefully timed. Social media posts, and even those are starting to crack. Blake launched a whole shampoo brand in the middle of Ryan's courtroom scandal. And fans were like, seriously? Why is she selling conditioner while Ryan's in court? It's giving vacuum commercial during a house fire. The internet is no longer buying the power couple fantasy because what used to look like playful jabs and adorable trolling. Now it looks like a couple holding hands over a PR grenade. The brand is crumbling. Gossip boards are saying Blake and Ryan's marriage was always a strategic business arrangement, not a love story. And honestly, it tracks. It's been squeaky clean for a decade. To clean. Even Ryan's famous bromance with Hugh Jackman is getting a side eye. People are saying with a straight face that there's more emotional chemistry there than he ever had with Blake. And if you scroll back through old red carpet footage, those sarcastic birthday posts, the roast my husband campaigns, they start to feel less like love and more like content, scripted, manufactured, fake. And now fans are asking the real question. Was any of this ever real? Meanwhile, Ryan's empire is starting to rot from the inside. The guy who once ruled social media can't even handle comments anymore. His Instagram comment section is disabled. And people aren't fooled. They're calling it exactly what it is, a panic move. It's not about privacy. It's not about boundaries. It's about a panic move. It's about control. The backlash was too loud, too sharp, too damning. And Ryan's ego couldn't take it. And his legal team, they're out here, filing motions that sound like YouTube thumbnails, accusing Justin Baldoni of circus lawsuits and media stunts while actively refusing discussion.